Yeah,
You're a
but wanting
coachable
to be
guy.
a coach is something that I think I wanted to do since I was in high school. Like, I loved always being part of a team and also always wondering how you'd put the parts together. I remember, reading Scotty Bowman books or any books I could get my hands on. I like coaches from all different sports. So it's something that when I volunteered at Notre Dame, and spent a year with no income, just we're living there and trying to learn. I learned under a great coach in Jeff Jackson, and to learn the work ethic. Because as a player, you always think, well, okay, coaching, you're going to do this, you're going to put these pieces together, and it's going to be easy to get the players to understand your vision of how you want them to play. And then you get there and you learn it takes a lot of work, and you got to learn how to create a language that's cohesive and easy for the players to understand and also visualize on the ice. And then working with players one-on-one, getting them to relish their role on the team, all that stuff. You find out quickly whether you love it or whether it's not for you. And I'm very fortunate and grateful for that year at Notre Dame. And that's what let me know that that's coaching is what I wanted to do for my living.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. And who would you say your biggest influence was in coaching? Because I only have maybe half of your coaches written down here, but Terry Murray, Bill Barber, you mentioned, and several others, I think Daryl Sutter, and
Yeah,
it's a ton of big name in the coaching world. Would you say any one of those was your biggest influence, or maybe the guy you mentioned as far as the head coach you worked under there?
Yeah, well, I think for sure Billy Barber was probably at the pro level the biggest influence. Very similar to what I see with Chief, like, and I think that's part of the Flyer culture, right? From Bobby Clark and Paul Holmgren. It's like, and you guys know that better than I do because you guys were there longer than I was. But you man up, you work hard. You're being paid for results, but your effort day in, day out, the respect you have and you get from your teammates and being a great teammate, those are the things that I remember learning from Billy Barber really well. I think my coaches in college probably had the biggest impact on X's and O's on me and individual teaching. Grant Stambrook is someone that recruited guys like Gary Suter and Chris Chelios and Mike Richter and Tony Granato and Scott Mellenby at Wisconsin, then recruited great players like Snow, Dunham, Korea at Maine. And he was a great one-on-one teacher. I remember when I was a head coach in Dubuque, I hired Grant to come in 1 week a month, and he'd come in, and we had Johnny Goudreau was one of
that's
our,
right. Yeah.
and Goudreau was, we signed him as a free agent because we were allowed to do that as an expansion team. We're supposed to, Northeastern said, you're going to have him for 3 years. Like, it's going to take a while for Johnny to grow and to learn and produce at the junior level. And he comes in, he's rookie of the year.
Yeah, right.
Playoff scoring leads us to a championship. And I remember Grant working with him and trying to teach him new moves. He goes, this guy's like a sponge. I show him something one time. He goes out and does it in a game and scores a goal. But, working with people like that. And then I got to say at the coaching level, I think John Stevens has probably had the biggest impact on me. Just spending so much time talking to him on the phone. And then I've been fortunate, like here with Chief and Steve Ott, Mike Van Ryn and the staff here, I've learned so much more. Rick Bowness at the NHL level, great human being that was really, knew the NHL so well and helped me organize scheduling and, dealing with players and, when to push, when not to push. There's all kinds of people like that in my life that I'm very fortunate to have taken little bits and pieces from to be able to create your own style and your own energy and how you're going to approach players.
Yeah, I was going to ask you something about that, Monty. So we can't overlook the fact that you won a national title as a head coach at Denver. I don't know. I've never been in the room with you while you were coaching, only when you were playing, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. But no, seriously, like you do have a great sense of humor, and you're a great dude to be around. But at the college level, like did you use the humor with the kids, or because you probably around them a lot, right? More than pros are around their coaches and stuff like that.
Yeah, at the college level, like you recruit these kids, you bring them into your program, you get to know their families. And then when they come in, now you start coaching them, and they get to know you as a coach first. And then they get to know you as a person, because you do spend a lot of time with them. And like, example, like a guy like Will Butcher that I had, like you get invited to their weddings, you go to their weddings. Troy Terry is someone that, when I got to Denver at 15 years old, he's already committed. And then he gets there at 18, he wins the World Juniors, and win a national champ. Going to his wedding this summer, that's a special thing that you get in college. And then when you move to pro, I think you can't have that same balance. But I do still think it's very important that you get to know your players as people.
Yeah.
That you be able to laugh with them, that you be able to have honest and hard conversations. And then also for them to be able to feel comfortable sharing with you. And that's when I think you really gain trust, is when a player comes to you and not always you going to them, and they want to talk. And it might be hockey, but it might not be hockey,
Right.
And that's where, as a coach, that you've gained their trust. And that's the most important thing, is that as a coach, everyone talks about a player has to gain a coach's trust, but it's got to work the other way for it to be a special relationship.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And, you've been coaching, I think, almost 17 years now. And obviously the game has evolved, and the philosophy around coaching has evolved, specifically around the element of communication. Where did you see that evolve? You go from like the old school way where you didn't even talk to your coach. It's almost like it was a good thing if you didn't hear from him, because you're probably going to get sent down or be scratched, to now it's like, who did we talk to the other day? Andy Delmore is like, you have to be a good communicator with your players. When did you notice that being a thing, or does it just kind of like evolve slowly and you just kind of like worked with it?
Well, I think communication's always been a strength of mine.
Yeah.
I think the thing you learn as you evolve as a coach is it's more important to listen than it is to tell people how much you know. Listening to your players, especially about what makes them tick and what they value, helps you, to be able to develop them to their strengths and also address their weaknesses.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. Listening is the mother of skill, right? I mean, and players want to be heard, right? They want to feel like they're part of the equation, not just being told what to do. So I agree with that. I've seen it. I was coaching the Phantoms for 7 years, and I think a lot of these players just want a sounding board. They just want to kind of get something off their chest and be heard. And then whether that translates or not, at the end of the day, they still feel like they've communicated what's on their heart. But yeah, the listening is huge, because nothing worse than a coach when you want to go talk to him and he just talks over you and you don't listen. You walk out and you scratch in your head and be like, what the hell was that all about? But
yeah. And that's it is. I mean, I remember my uncle, who was an agent for a while, told me there's a reason why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're supposed to listen twice as much. I was a yappy SOB when I was a kid.
Not you. No way. Oh, that's great. Monty, so when you're a college coach, I mean, you basically have those, like, you're the boss, like, no matter what, right? Like, that's what I would think. But like, you come into the NHL as a head coach, now you got these, you played with big time players. That's one thing you got to get to about a little nickname.
Oh yeah.
But you come in as a head coach now, you're a new head coach, and you got Jamie Benn in your locker room, Tyler Sagan. Like, what was your approach there? Like, cause it's gotta like be something you're thinking about going in, taking that job.
Yeah, it is. And I think my mode of communication that I brought, that's just the way I work, is I try and get to know them. And I mean, you'd have to ask them, but I think at the beginning they hadn't experienced maybe a coach that And I think they thought that I wanted to be friends. I'm not opposed to being friends with my players. That wasn't the goal. It was to get to know them, get to know what makes them tick. And I think over time, there was a respect that grew. I know on my part, there was a tremendous amount of respect, especially with my relationship with Jamie Benn and, the Tyler Seguins and Klingbergs of the world that were our leaders. And I think it trickled down to being able to develop a relationship with everybody, to be able to make someone understand whether they played 8 minutes or 18 minutes, the value that they brought to our team. And I think it took a while. It took longer, I thought, than I wanted it to. I thought by Thanksgiving I'd be able to be there, but it actually took to the All-Star break. And then I think our team took off, and, we had a great run. If it wasn't for the St. Louis Blues being so good and the Chiefs team, maybe it would have been us going all the way to Stanley Cup finals. But that's the thing you learn at the pro level is being able to be fair and firm. With players, they respect that, and being, holding people accountable. Like there's sometimes where a guy like Jamie Benn isn't playing well and his 18 minutes get trimmed down to 15. There's a message sent there that players understand that they need to be better every night. And in the end, I think every player wants to win. So if they're having an off night, which everybody has off nights, and you give someone that's on the third line more opportunity to help you win that night, I think there's a lot of respect given towards the coaching staff on what you're trying to accomplish, as the team's the most important thing.
100%. Yeah. And everybody on that bench notices that too, right? If you keep playing a guy that's having an off night, it's not showing that that element of accountability, in the sense that everybody is on the same field here. Everyone is the same, even though their roles are different. And if Jamie Benn's not going, well, we have to send a message and trim the minutes down and get someone that's going tonight. But everybody notices that, which if you just ignored that, everyone would notice that as well. And then again, you kind of lose some street cred in the sense that, well, you're being hard on these guys, but not these guys. And I remember when was it Dale Hunter was in Washington. It was like, how do you work with Ovechkin, and how do you work with his skill and his enthusiasm and energy, but also send the team message. And I think, where Nasty was going with the question really was just like, the differences of personalities in that locker room, superstars versus, fourth liners. And it sounds like you have to treat them all the same, even though they're all different personalities. Everyone's got a different personality, you treat them a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, whether you're the first PP unit or, again, fringe guy, all you expect is the work, the effort. And then if it's not going, you're sending the message irregardless. Is that fair to say, that you treat them all somewhat the same? So everyone notices that?
I think you treat everyone fairly. You can't treat everybody the same because of their roles are different.
Right.
But I think it's important that everyone feels valued and they know that what the coach wants from them, and that you're going to communicate to them. I remember learning a great lesson from Corey Perry one time, because it was a game that we won, and their line had played well, but just with the way the matchups went, his line got short suited probably about 3 minutes, and he just came to me the next day and wanted to know why. And, and I hadn't noticed, because we had won, that I had, not played them as much. And it was a good lesson for me. Like, okay, well, those, you got to watch those minutes, and then guys that didn't get their minutes, go and communicate to them why it was. And it was just a matchup thing. It wasn't anything with their performance. It's just the other team wasn't playing the line that I had them matched up against. So I was rolling with my matchups because it was working for us. But things like that, you learn and you grow as a person, and that's evolving as a coach. And, just getting back to Jamie Benn, like that's a great captain, because I remember I used him in some shutdown roles some nights against certain opponents, and he sacrificed offense. That's a guy who will sacrifice as a leader to try and win. And you're very fortunate when you're a coach and you have someone that's a leader like that to lead everybody else.
Yeah, 100%. Makes your job a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure does.
Yeah. We were, it would be tough to go to the rink every day, almost like button heads with the captain, right? Because he thinks differently, or he's not accepting of the roles you're giving him and whatnot. But yeah, I would imagine it certainly makes the job easier.